Good morning. As a preliminary matter, this is John Brescher, Chair of the Town Government Study Committee. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipating the agenda, our president can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Campbell Sutton.
Here.
Linda Williams.
Here.
Tucker Holland.
Tucker, you're on mute. Tucker. Mute.
You might be muting us too.
I'm not sure he's got his sound on. Hold on.
Okay, well, we know Tucker Holland is here. Let's see. When we are anticipating Rick to join us as well. And anticipating potential speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Hillary Hedges Rayport.
Present.
Thank you. All right. Good morning. This open meeting of the Town Government Study Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current and seemingly ongoing state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment to those members of the public that have joined via Zoom. This meeting, the Town Government Study Committee is convening by video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town website, identifying how people, members of the public, may join for Zoom meetings. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided by members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. Public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I, the chair, note otherwise. All right, now let's turn to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, let's go over some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone, computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly. For any response, please wait for the chair yields. Please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Awesome. Yeah,
Tucker's going to go out and come back in again. His audio is not working.
Fair enough. All right, so let's get down to the first item on the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Well, actually, wait, I gotta wait for Tucker, don't I?
Okay. Yeah, wait to see.
Here he is.
Tucker
Hold
when
on,
he
he's
gets
coming
back
back.
in.
He's coming
See if
back.
he can get back in with his audio. His audio wasn't working either way.
Let's try it again.
Now he's connecting to audio, so that may work. And just as a word note, Matt Fee and Emily Molden are also
That's right.
here.
Hello, Matt. Hello, Emily.
Hi, guys. It's Matt. I don't have my face
Tucker.
on because I don't have a lot of bandwidth.
All right, hang
No.
on. Tucker, can you hear us? Can we hear you, Tucker? Doesn't look like he's muted.
Doesn't look like he's muted either.
You know, while he was joining, I saw okay, now he's trying to connect to audio, but the audio connection failed. Okay,
Oh,
so
there
now
we
it
go.
says he's connected.
Really cool.
Tucker, you got us?
Finally, yes, my audio was not working. Thank you.
Yes. Success. All right, so let's welcome back. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda as written. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
Motion
Second.
made. Is there a second? Second. All right, thank you. All those in favor, we'll do a roll call vote. Campbell Sutton,
Aye.
Tucker Holland,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
and John Brescher, the chair, votes aye as well. All right, next item on the agenda, as I pull it up, public comment. We do have members of the public here. Hello, Emily. Hello, Matt. Hello, Hillary. We also have a presentation by Hillary, but is there any public comments off the bat? Okay, still seeing the mute signs. Let's move on to the next item, which is approval of the minutes of March 16th, 2021. I think Campbell had some comments or questions on those minutes.
Yes, I did. I sort of sent you a red line copy of it. Just a couple of things for clarity, I thought under number 6, under discussion unresolved items.
Okay,
So I sent this to you, so I'm just going to sort of read it, but you should have it for you to be viewing. Says the committee then discussed the review of other charters as it relates to examples of the organization of town government. I thought we should add in what those 4 who those 4 charters were. I knew there was Chatham. Maybe Falmouth was in there.
sure. I know Rick sent those, so we can find those. That's fine.
And then I thought it could even refer to me, if it doesn't sound like it fits in, examples of organization of town government, and found the charters to be more streamlined and provide greater clarity and ease of use to the lay person, was a comment, a topic we had discussed, and I had sort of promoted it. So I don't know which way it feels better, is whether it's just sort of a broad statement or whether you feel it needs to be attributed. Then the committee suggested that the charter have something more forceful. I thought we should just strike that, because forceful, I couldn't quite figure out what we were talking about. And I think it is specified greater in the next 2 paragraphs with Rick's suggestion for town council review, et cetera, et cetera.
Mr. Chairman, keep in mind, and we've been told this by town council ad nauseum, that minutes are to be a generalized statement and not a verbatim or very specific.
No,
I don't
understood.
think this is for clarity. I think just saying we looked at other charters, if someone were coming to read the minute, I don't think that would be a helpful statement necessarily.
Well, how about this? How about we hold over the minutes until the next meeting, and then we can sort of wordsmith what else we need to, and we'll submit them for our next
Okay.
meeting.
And none of them have to go in, so that's fine. I just was trying to make greater clarity for people who are reading the minutes.
No, I appreciate it.
And I
Why
didn't
don't we take a look through the edits, and we can hold them over for the next meeting. That's not a big deal.
So moved, do I say that?
Sure, let's go with that.
Approval to,
Move to hold meeting vote of the minutes to the next meeting.
21 minutes to the next meeting.
All right, so I don't know that we necessarily need to vote on that. So let's jump into the Hillary's presentation. Hillary, you're
I
up.
have to say, Mr. Chairman, can I?
Yes,
go
please, Linda,
first?
go first.
I've already had this conversation with you. I don't think this is appropriate whatsoever. I wanted to know if she was representing the commission or whether she was representing herself as a member of the public. This has not been brought before the planning commission or any of the other entities that were named in there. I think it's highly inappropriate. I don't think we have any jurisdiction. In fact, it clearly states what our jurisdiction is on our little blurb on the town website, which doesn't include any of this.
Yes, it
So I'm
does.
having a problem wasting my time listening to this, and I have to be very vocal about this. I was a member of the planning commission, so was Matt at one point. I don't know if he's still the representative. I think it's Christie. But I think this is highly inappropriate when this, I don't care if she's spoken to Nat. He's one member of 11 of the planning commission. And I've already gotten a lot of blowback that we're even entertaining this in this manner. So that's my rag for the day. But I
All
think
right.
it's inappropriate.
Would you like me to proceed with my presentation now, or do you want
I'm not going
to?
to entertain it, but you can go ahead and do it.
Yes,
was
Campbell, your
asking the
hand is
chair.
raised.
Mhm.
I would just like to throw in something here. I know that at our last meeting, you know, Hillary has spoken to the town manager who suggested that she bring this to this committee. So that would be how it sort of landed here. I would also say under the mission statement, though very broadly stated as a mission statement, it does say that I feel that this could fall under our town government study committee purview because one, it's a review of to review structure of government, which this is, and two, or other recommendations it deems advisable. Those are, so those are would be the two broad areas that entertaining this does have value. And I just wanted Linda to know that Hillary isn't just bringing it to us. She has spoken to other people that have funneled it this way.
That's
And
not exactly correct, but that's all right. My issue is that we expressly do not have any jurisdiction over composition. The commission was created by state law. This is not something we fool around with here. I was on the little subcommittee that was working with the bylaws of the Planning Commission. And no, we don't. In fact, it says so on our little blurb on the town website. We don't have jurisdiction over that.
Yes, Campbell, hands raised again.
yeah, sorry, I would just like, I think it would be important if when we came together as a committee, if we came with a more open mind to hear the items on the agenda instead of trying to shut them down before we've gone anywhere with it. Understand your personal feelings on this, Linda, I get that. I know you've been involved with it. You've been involved with a broad base of things, but I think we're not, when I read this, it didn't look as though what we were being asked to do was to rewrite the NP and EDC, but just to entertain perhaps, I sort of get out of it, perhaps entertain a recommendation towards a more specific or more specific issue-driven mission than its broad mission that it has now. When I look at other missions, maybe a mission update would be an appropriate thing. I don't think we're here to decide whether it should exist or that kind of thing. That wasn't my impression from the.
We don't have any right to tell the Planning Commission what its mission is in this particular government study thing. We don't. And we're never going to have that.
That's not what
And
I
the
was.
fact that it hasn't been taken before the Planning Commission itself, I find it just absolutely ridiculous. So that's
Okay.
That's enough said on my part.
All right,
I'm not going to entertain it, but I'll listen to it.
duly noted. All right, Campbell, is your hand still raised or are we ready to move on? No, we're hands not raised. Hillary, I think you're up with that precursor.
Hi, great,
Have at
thank
it.
you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to talk with you about this topic. So I think you all know me. I just will mention a little bit briefly about my background. So my husband's family has been coming to Nantucket since the 1950s. My husband and I became owners of an old home on Nantucket about 15 years ago. So I've personally had about a 20-year association with Nantucket. Our interest in Nantucket was in its history, the architecture, and the pristine nature. Those are the things that attracted us to wanting to spend more and more time on Nantucket. And the more time I spent on Nantucket, the more I felt the specialness of just resonating with the place, the past, and over time, seeing how much the world is changing. Nantucket, even though it's also changing, is more and more distinctive and more precious because of the work that's been done to preserve the habitat and the historic town. And also the work of the HDC to make sure that the new development doesn't overwhelm or overtake the old town, which I think is an increasing struggle. So I really was just sort of, a person enjoying Nantucket as a vacation destination. I'm a summer resident. Hopefully we'll want to retire to Nantucket someday. We spend as much time there as we can. But I'm increasingly concerned that Nantucket might not end up being a place my family and I wish to retire to. And I was delighted to learn that it's really possible as a citizen to get involved with your government on Nantucket. It's possible to volunteer, to serve on commissions, to speak to the select board, to get to know how the place works. And also to learn on Nantucket and the government in Massachusetts. The legislative body on Nantucket are the voters. The voters make the laws, and the voters really run the town. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the voters supervise the select board supervises our town manager, and our town manager supervises everybody else. So the voters have a really, really important role on Nantucket. Sometimes I wonder, should I be spending so much time on government on Nantucket? But I also feel deeply that I could make a difference on Nantucket and maybe have less of an opportunity to make a difference in some other places. So I currently spend a tremendous amount of time, as all of you on this call do, volunteering my time for the town of Nantucket. I do serve on the Historical Commission. I chair the Historical Commission, so I'm a special municipal employee of the town. And I am here as a citizen. But I can't ignore I've not discussed any of this that I'm going to be talking to you about with the Historical Commission, but I can't ignore the fact that it has been my work with the Historical Commission, which is the Preservation Planning Commission of Nantucket. So I have had the opportunity to interact a lot with the Planning Commission, the Planning Board, the Planning Director, and of course, the staff liaison to the Historical Commission, who is the town preservation planner. So I've learned a lot through those interactions over the past nearly 2 years, actually fully 2 years. So I want to talk to you about why I started thinking about the structure of the Planning Commission and how we plan on Nantucket, and why I thought I'd really like to bring some of these observations to you so that you, as the Government Study Committee, who is recommending changes to commissions, to different structures on Nantucket, could make a decision or determine what you may or may not wish to do with these thoughts. So my concern began actually with clean water, and the observation that our harbor is becoming more and more polluted. The water is noticeably less clean than it was even 10 years ago. The eelgrass is declining. We have Emily Molden from the Land Council on the line here, who knows more about this than most people. And I learned astonishingly that on the Cape, and on the islands, they actually ban fertilizers. So Nantucket has a policy and we have a program to regulate fertilizers, but it is completely voluntary. There's no actual bylaw limiting or guiding the application of fertilizers. And what I learned was that they are able to do this on the Cape and Islands, or the Cape and the Vineyard, but we on Nantucket are not able to do this. We have to follow the state rule, which does not give local governments the ability to regulate fertilizers. So as you know, being the government study committee, Massachusetts is a home rule state. And for the most part, municipalities can set their own rules, either by special act, such as the special act that created the NP and EDC, or by, home rule, excuse me, by under the Home Rule Act. But regulating fertilizers is not something you can do under home rule, unless you have a regional planning commission, which has the authority to designate districts of critical planning concern. So this power was given to the Cape Cod Commission and the Martha's Vineyard Commission, both of which are created under special acts, similar to Nantucket's Planning Commission or related to. They're able to designate districts of critical planning concern, which give them kind of a super authority over certain developments or happenings in their region that have the potential for really negative, really adverse effects to the environment, the culture, etc. So I thought, well, if they can do this on the Cape and the Islands, why can't we on Nantucket regulate fertilizers? Why can't we on Nantucket petition the state government for the right to designate districts of critical planning concern? So the first thing I did was to find out more about DCPCs and what they were. I spoke with the preservation planner on staff at the Cape Cod Commission. I learned a little bit more about DCPCs, and the more I learned, the more I thought, this actually has a lot of benefits for Nantucket. It's not as important because on Nantucket, we don't have multiple towns. We can really actually through zoning law control all of our laws in our whole region, whereas the Cape cannot control the whole region except through the Planning Commission. We can, but there are other benefits such as this ability to ban fertilizers and some other benefits. So I started thinking, we should really do this. And then I thought, but where would this ability live? And I have to say the question of where would this ability live, it came to me as a question because I feel, and I'm sorry to say this, but I feel like our planning commission does not do as much planning as they should be doing. I don't feel that it's a well-functioning commission. And, I'm sorry to say that, but I'm here as a citizen telling you my observations, which you may or may not agree with. But then I thought, this type of thing really does need to live with the Planning Commission. So maybe we should spend some time looking, seeing, well, would most people agree or disagree that the Planning Commission is well functioning? Is this something that we could fix? What can we learn about the Planning Commission? So I produced the document that is in your packet, which simply compares the mission of the Planning Commission, how it compares to other planning commissions, and the composition of the Planning Commission and how it compares to other commissions. And I found some pretty significant differences that I think would be of interest to everybody on Nantucket. The first is the mission. So our Planning Commission was created in 1973. It has been updated from time to time, but the mission has not been updated. We are a very, very different island than we were in 1973. So I'm not going to read this packet, but I guess I will summarize the difference in mission as the other neighboring commissions, which have very similar pressures, very similar ecology, are explicitly about sustainable growth, about balanced growth, about environmental health, and about quality of life and culture. And that is coded into the DNA and the mission of the planning commissions in these places. Whereas on Nantucket, it's a very simple statement: to plan for the orderly and coordinated development and protection of the physical, social, and economic resources of the island of Nantucket. There's nothing in the statement that is really similar to what you have on the Cape Cod and the islands. So the Vineyard Commission says to further protect the health, safety, and general welfare of island residents and visitors by preserving and conserving for the enjoyment of present and future generations the unique natural, historical, ecological, scientific, and cultural values of Martha's Vineyard, which contribute to the public enjoyment, inspiration, and scientific study by protecting these values from development and uses which would impair them, and by promoting the enhancement of sound local economies. It's a much more powerful statement and much more about balanced growth. The Cape Cod Commission has a similarly protective mission to further the conservation and preservation of natural undeveloped areas, wildlife, flora, and habitats for endangered species, the preservation of coastal resources, including aquaculture, the protection of groundwater, surface water, ocean water quality, as well as the other natural resources of Cape Cod, balanced economic growth, the provision of adequate capital facilities, including transportation, water supply, and solid sanitary and hazardous waste disposal facilities, the coordination of the provision of adequate capital facilities with the achievement of other goals, development of an adequate supply of fair, affordable housing, and the preservation of historical, cultural, archaeological, architectural, and recreational values. So all of these things, you know, everything that we have on Nantucket that's here, it's here because somebody saved it and somebody planned for it. So I think that our planning commission should have a specific mandate for sustainable growth and protection of the things that we hold dear and that are critical to the future flourishing of Nantucket Island. The second thing that really jumped out was the composition and the way the committee is composed. So I think the thing that is most surprising when you really think about it is that the NP and EDC, which I also call interchangeably, I call it the Planning Commission, as do other people. So the Planning Commission, which is not the Planning Board, the Planning Board is a regulatory board. The Planning Commission is planning for the long-term development of Nantucket. So all of the master plan, the area plans, and then recommending that those plans be adopted by the Planning Board. So the Planning Commission is comprised of the 5 members of the Planning Board. So if you run for Planning Board on Nantucket, for whatever motivation you have, whatever experience you have, it's a 2-for-1. You also get to be on the Planning Commission. You have to be on the Planning Commission. It's an automatic appointment. Then the Select Board is able to appoint 1 person. The Conservation Commission is able to appoint 1 person. And the Housing Authority is able to appoint 1 person. There are then a further 3 people who are appointed by the Planning Commission. They appoint their own members. This is really unusual. There are no other elected or appointed boards on Nantucket, boards or commissions that appoint their own members. Members are either elected by the people or they're appointed by the Select Board, which is the highest governing authority on Nantucket. Additionally, can I share my screen? Yes, I can share my screen. I just want to show you this org chart. So this is a brand new org chart from the March NP and EDC meeting. And you can see here that the NP and EDC Select Board are at the very top, overseeing everything, you know. So you really can't say that this commission is not important. I have had members of the Planning Commission say, well, you have to understand this commission doesn't really do anything. Or you have to understand, you know, this commission doesn't have authority. It just has, just makes recommendations. But this chart clearly says that the NP and EDC and the Select Board are at parity, overseeing everything in the town, everything. So I think there's a real rift. I mean, there's a yawning crevasse between accountability to the voters or even accountability to the Select Board when you have what is effectively a self-appointing commission, or a commission, where if you have the 11 people less 3 people, and 5 of those remaining 8 people, you know, are the planning board appointing the at-large members. So that for a government study committee that is looking at good governance, that really jumped out. Then I looked at the other commissions, Martha's Vineyard and Cape Cod, and what I found was that it's in the packet I put together, was that on the Vineyard, they have a group of people who are actually directly elected that serve on the commission, and everybody else is appointed, who votes, is appointed by the town select boards. On Cape Cod, they don't have elected members, they're all appointed, and they are appointed by the town select boards. So I think there is a real important governance question here. So the question is, what to do. Now, I'm not the only person who's raised my hand and said, what is up with this commission? I mean, there was a review, it was done by the Novak Group. And the Novak Group specifically recommended the town consider an alternative structure not for their planning commission, but for their regional planning authority. And I'm glad I'm seeing this now just to remember to address this. The NP and EDC, aka the Planning Commission, is the regional planning authority. This is a function that allows Nantucket to accept grants and also expertise. So it's a special relationship that Nantucket gets to have with the state of Massachusetts, with different departments, most prominently the DOT, where we get special grants and expertise. And we really need this authority. I don't know who negotiated this back in the 70s or when we became an RPA, which I think those came up later, but it was fantastic. It's terrific that we have it. But the Novak Group felt that they just felt that it was confusing. So they said, as the town's population, economic, and environmental landscape change, it may be appropriate to evaluate the following. 1, whether the NPEDC is the appropriate agency to serve as the RPA for Nantucket, and 2, should it have hiring authority and determine conditions of employment for employees who report to town administration. An alternative structure for the RPA could provide both efficiencies and clarity within PLUS by consolidating planning functions under a single board, and subsequently reducing the number of boards and commissions and the amount of time spent providing administrative and staff support. And the Novak Group did not make specific recommendations about where the RPA should live, nor did they recommend elimination of the NP and EDC. But they did point out that it's confusing. So the question is, and I'll wrap up now, is what to do. I, as a citizen, I think that Nantucket would benefit from a revised mission that mandates the things that we need and that are consistent with the strategic plan of our select board, which is sustainable growth, protection of our cultural values, and protection of our water and our environment. I think that we could benefit from some of these expanded powers that the Cape Cod Commission and the Martha's Vineyard Commission bring to their communities that we don't have, specifically regulating fertilizers and saving our water. Then I think adjusting some of the, what I will really call irregularities in the appointment and composition. So then if you agree with that, then I think the obvious next question is, well, what is a better way? How should it be composed? And what I'll leave with are my own thoughts on this, which is, I think you could either have a planning commission that is an elected or appointed board, elected or appointed by the select board, or you could have a planning commission that is a board of boards, which is sort of what we have, but it's just not diversified enough. You could say, well, the housing authority, are they really the people who are moving and shaking with affordable housing? No, it's probably the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. these, but the other commissions that are on this board, is it attractive to have a coordinating board with representation from a variety of people? And if that's the case, you probably wouldn't have 5 members of the planning board on it. You probably have a little more diversity. So so that's it, you know, looking at making sure that we're keeping up with what other groups are doing and learning from other planning commissions, revisiting the mission, revisiting the appointments, thinking about the recommendations from the Novak report. And I would love to hear your thoughts, and I'm also available to answer any questions that I can. And I know Matt and Emily probably have a lot to say about this too, so they might want to chime in.
Great, thank you, Hillary. That was very important. Let's see. Before I open up to the committee members, and to Matt and Emily if they want to chime in. I think this is it's very interesting information. I think it's very important information. I don't think, while it is within our purview, I don't know that we're the ones who can affect the change. In other words, I believe it is, and you know, Linda, or I see Rick has left, but maybe Matt or those who are more well-versed than I am. I believe it's a home rule petition to change this type of NP and EDC charter, which I don't know that we have again, realize within our bailiwick. But I think it's very interesting points that you raised, and I'm going to sort of open it up to the other committee members if they want to chime in. Yes, Campbell. Unmute.
Yeah, got you. Sorry. Just because I'm going to also be talking about this when we talk about the Andover Town Government Study Committee piece. And because we've been reviewing a few other mission statements around our own formation and other areas, commissions in the town. So I'm sort of making that this statement for that broader piece, which I think my statement is that I think a lot of these missions were written and are at the origination point of these committees and commissions, et cetera, not actually sure of what direction they would go or how they would evolve over time. And perhaps there was a thought that over time one could, adjust or redefine the mission statement to be more specific. But instead, we've been left with these very broad mission statements that personally, I think, don't help focus members of committees and commissions under them or help with direction. So that's one thing that, and while I don't believe it would be our job or under our purview to rewrite or come up with the mission statement, I do believe that broadly speaking, it would be under our purview to suggest that these mission statements that are old be updated. I think that could be under purview and would have value, broadly speaking, to the town meeting members that come to consider that concept. So that's on the mission piece. On other parts of this, I'm in agreement with Hillary. I like the way she lays it out. I think these, what she's called, or what are called the DCPCs, I think that would be a very important designation as we're trying to move forward with these coastal resiliency plans, et cetera. The power of some town board to be able to identify important, what did she call them? Pause development in certain areas where we know there's high sensitivity to water quality, water, ocean, sea level rise, etc. So I think the ability that the DCP see the power of that is important. That's probably not under our purview to say anything about, but I would encourage whoever's involved to be looking more broadly at updating. Again, let's update. Let's get with the current needs of the town, the residents, etc. So that was pretty much, and I really, I can't tell you how much I appreciate Hillary's time and effort in doing the research for this and putting together such a concise outline for us to review. So I'd like to really thank her for that effort.
Thank you.
My hand's
Rick,
raised.
yes.
I don't know how to raise a hand.
Hold on, Linda. Hold on. Rick had his hand raised.
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me, John?
Yep, you're good now.
So I apologize for signing in late, and then I had to restart my whole computer, so I lost the last 5 minutes, and I just caught the end of Campbell's comment. As a general proposition, since I missed the first part as well, I want to sort of endorse a broad mission, and we don't have any authority to make decisions other than making decisions on what to recommend others consider. And I think this whole topic is clearly worthy of open discussion. And that's really what we're doing here. And so Campbell, thanks for saying that. I caught the little end. And maybe it was mentioned earlier, but just to point out, if I'm repeating something that happened earlier, let me know. There was I believe, a home rule petition article concerning the commission a few years ago to remove the head of the DPW as one of the members of that commission. And that then went up to the state as a home rule and was passed by the state. So it's not unreasonable. And we've had changes in other parts of our enabling legislation having to do with, I believe, some of our recognition as, what was it, related to the ocean and the beaches and so forth. So changes are not inappropriate when they're warranted, and a full discussion will be helpful. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Rick. Real quick question. When the home rule petition went up for removing the DPW, who sponsored that? Do you recall?
We did.
I don't remember whether
We did.
I don't know.
Who's
I
we?
do. I was on the commission when that was happening.
Was an NPNEDC sponsored one?
Yes, because
Okay.
we had 12 members. The quorum issue was a problem
Ew.
a
All right.
lot. So, and he's a contract person for the town.
Right.
And so it was felt and unanimously agreed that the 12th position should be eliminated.
Right.
Okay.
Just to follow up, John, quickly, I think as with any town meeting article, it's either citizen initiated or planning board initiated.
Right.
And or board of selectmen, or today's select board initiated. I don't think the commission has the authority under that process to initiate its own articles without going through one of those vehicles.
We went through the select board,
There you
selectmen
go.
at the time.
There we go.
I just want to make that clear,
No,
Linda. Thank you.
understood. Fine distinction. Yes, Linda.
Again, I'll state my point. Our little charge is to not do anything about composition. We are not a governance committee. I know John and you and I have had a lot of conversations about governance in other towns. We are government study committee. We don't tell the planning commission what to do, who to hire, how to compose itself. We don't get involved with missions of each board. So I'm having a lot of trouble with any of this, particularly again, since none of it went before the planning commission. So I just think it's ass backwards. The planning commission is not our planning commission by statute is not a regulatory board. It does deal with tip funding and road construction and things like that through Mike Burns, who's no longer here. I assume they have somebody they like coming in, apparently. So we do have a function, and we are involved with the other 12 regional planning agencies through various committees and meetings on statewide. So I'm troubled by this whole thing. And anything that happens with this thing is not touchy-feely, go to town meeting. Anything that happens with this has to go up for a home rule petition.
Mhm.
Right now, they don't have any jurisdiction over water. That's another entity in the town. They don't have any jurisdiction over sea rise. That's another entity in town. They have a coastal resiliency group, which is great guns going. They have a Concom. We have the planning board. When the majority of the planning commission is elected officials, that's representative of the population. The rest of them are appointed by their various appointed boards, by the selectmen, select board, who appoint those positions to the Concom and various other things. There's a reason why it was created the way it was created. I think we're being very presumptuous. And the government study committee has nothing whatsoever to do with anything in this document. While I applaud the effort put into it, that is not before us, and we're spinning our wheels here. It's better off having that discussion with the planning commission to see if they want to expand their position here. There are 11 members over there. Nat is only one member. He is not the planning commission again. He's aware of this document. Several people are aware of this document. And there is a lot of outrage about this. So I'm not going to personally do anything with the this charter commission, this government study committee, that's going to advance any of these. Because I think they're misplaced, and I think they need to go to the entities that do have some power over this. I think we're overreaching to go any further with it.
Thank you. Tucker.
Yeah, I just was gonna make a couple of quick comments. I can't help, I guess, coming from my my role, noting that in the listing of select board priorities, preservation of buildings and preservation of open space, what was omitted was the creation of housing for the year-round community, which has been the board's #1 priority. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. And secondly, I mean, I somewhat agree with what Campbell was saying, that I think it's always appropriate to look at whether a mission should be updated, whether board composition should be updated or amended. Linda, I recall, did a very good thing for the Affordable Housing Trust in reorganizing the makeup of that board a few years ago. I think those are worthy of looking at. I'm just not sure, as I think several folks have said, whether it's really our purview to determine that, other than to perhaps suggest that others take a look. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker. Yes, Matt. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. I'm speaking as an individual. I'm not representing the select board. I'm representing myself.
Great.
Linda is right in some regards. It is, you know, it's up to town meeting. It's up to the state. It's up to their board. This should go in front of them. She's right on all that. I think, but I also think that where I think she's not right is this is the type of topic your group should be talking about. If the public has concerns, the government study should be making those recommendations. You can't tell anyone what to do, but you can recommend that they look at things, and you can recommend what makes sense. Why looking at this, in my opinion, makes sense is that there's been a bifurcated government. Some things, there's no good connection sometimes on some of these issues. issues. I've been dealing with it for 12 years now after, after a 6-year break and dealt with it before. Some of it is funding related and other issues, but a lot of it is, I had an aha moment when I read this. When I read what Hillary said, I've sort of been frustrated and trying to impact it. When I was a co-chair, we tried to meet with the planning department on a regular basis. It didn't really happen. There's things that it's very difficult. And so I think, I had an aha moment when I read this from Hillary and said, oh, this makes a lot of sense. This is why the various this is why some of this doesn't work. The incentives are misaligned and the communication is misaligned. This is why we're sort of not dealing with some of these issues, sort of like housing. It's partly why we didn't get to housing as strongly as we should have, as early as we should have. So it was an aha moment. My second aha moment came this morning when we put up the org chart and NP and EDC was alongside the select board. If they are, I've served on that board for 6 years, 2 terms, and it was very difficult to do much other than traffic. And then when Mike went, we didn't get some of the transportation stuff. We're trying to do it, but now they're pointing a little bit more toward planning. But I just feel like, that if it's that strong a board, then it really needs the attention, and it deserves your attention. Your recommendation, to the NPDC or to the planning board or to any other entity that, the public has come and we've spent 2 years and we've looked at this and we think this could be better. That recommendation holds weight is important. And I don't think that you should, I think you should, look at it closely and make the recommendation, as a board that you believe is correct.
Thank you. Emily, you want to jump in?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. I won't take up too much of your time, but I did just want to chime in with a couple of thoughts. As you guys all know, the Land Council's really focused on helping to protect the island's natural resources, and in doing so, we advocate them before many of the town's boards and agencies. I personally have not had a lot of experience yet before the NP and EDC. I've certainly begun to attend their meetings, but I don't have a lot of personal experience with them. I would certainly echo some of Matt's comments in seeing issues come up over time where there seems to be more division than maybe there should be. Maybe not division, separation, I suppose, on issues between boards and agencies. And I find some of this really interesting in the idea of creating a little bit more cohesion again, and an opportunity for the Planning Commission to maybe bring some of those interests together in a different way. I think also the DCPC concept is certainly, as Campbell said, I mean, in addition to Hillary's example of fertilizer regulations, I've thought that as far as the coastal resilience goes, seeing a number of parcels come up for redevelopment just in the last few months directly in the downtown area, knowing that the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee is going to be within the next year likely coming out with recommendations to bring to the town for some proposed policy changes or regulation changes. It seems like that could certainly play an important role in helping the town with planning around coastal resilience. And then also in general, I think that it's a really good point to think about the priorities of the town. Back in 1973, I inherited a ridiculous amount of files and paperwork in the Land Council building that I've recently been trying to spend a little bit of time going through to get rid of some of it and make a little space for my own files. And it's amazing to just come upon paperwork from the 70s and the 80s between Land Council staff and select board at the time and different town agencies and departments, and with a lot of the same issues, but some different issues. And I think it's really valuable. I mean, what Tucker says about the priority of housing, again, not fully knowing or comprehending what the study committee, government study committee's role is. I think if there's an opportunity for you as a group to make a recommendation to maybe explore the role of the NP and EDC further, I would definitely support that. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to chime in real quick, and thank you everyone for your very thoughtful comments on this. It actually sort of dovetails nicely into another topic on our agenda that we'll get to in a minute, and that's the role of the Government Study Committee in a lot of this. In as much as what Linda was hinting at, and I know I've had this discussion with Campbell, the role of our Government Study Committee is to report to town meeting and to look at the structure of the government. That is our mission statement. It's very apropos that we're talking about, call them outdated mission statements for other town committees. And perhaps ours is one of them, because it's clear from talking to Matt and from just hearing from the public that there is more of a desire for our committee to look at governance, not just government, not just the structure of it, but governance, meaning the functionality, both from sort of a macro and micro level. So that would need to be looked at on a day-to-day basis. And one of those would be, as again, I'm going to pick on Matt, poor Matt here, but I said, with our recommendations are to go to town meeting. That's what our mission statement says. We will make recommendations to town meeting. As a practical matter, it would make a whole lot more sense for us to make recommendations to select board, to town administration, to NPDC, if applicable, HTC, you name it. But it would be, it is not currently within our mission to do that, but it would sure make a whole lot of sense if this is what this committee decides to do, and this is what everybody thinks the committee should be, that the role be, I don't even want to say the role be expanded, but that the role be redefined and that the mission be redefined to sort of do what the public is anticipating we look at. Yes, Matt.
John, could the select board handle that through, amending your mission? Could we amend your mission to say that you are to bring it where appropriate, to make recommendations where appropriate?
I'm going
We
to
would
let
have to
Campbell chime in,
change-
but then
We would have to change to a governance and government. We can't do it under our current thing. A governance thing is something in other towns that is meeting once a month, et cetera, et cetera. You know, they take up, basically a complaint from Clifford or Teresa would go to the governance committee. So it would be almost, it's not a complaint committee, but it would be a governance committee, how best to solve a problem or how best to deal with a problem. That is different than a government study committee whose charter was to look at the charter. So waiting for town council's response, to look at the charter to see what changes need to be made on a technical issue because of state law changes, as well as things that aren't really working that well with form of government, things like that. That's what we were tasked to do. We were not tasked to become a governance committee. If the Board of Selectmen want to add that to our charge, it's an entirely separate format. And John has looked at the other ones. We just got an email the other day about it. From other towns, like Andover has a big governance committee, which is separate from government study, which is a regulatory thing every 6 years or whatever it is. So it would be a morph, put it that way. It wouldn't just add to the government study, it would be a morphed committee.
Campbell.
So to your point, John, and to yours, Linda, I see where you're really trying to stick with this format. I think what we're trying to do is maybe look at ways of expanding and creating a better, more specific verbiage to represent what we do, what direction we're headed. As far as the Andover governance, I'm just going to pop in on that because I've done a little bit of research into it. So it's a 20-month government study committee. The mission of whether, the study commission for the town is in its mission statement. And that's where that's defined. So I had raised my hand because Matt had asked about adding something in that would make it, the select board would redefine the mission. I would just like to suggest that perhaps our committee try and use a few other towns' examples to create a mission that was more specific or more focused and directed, that would then be shared with the town meeting and the select board for their approval for the next government study committee. You see what I mean? Yes, our current thing, it has 2 areas, which I mentioned earlier, that allow for broadly looking at issues that can fall under governance. It's not just charter. And it's closing, at the mission closing, it says, or other recommendations it deems advisable. That's pretty broad, and this falls under that. So that was just to Matt's point. I'd like, because we have it on our agenda for later discussion, and I'd like to get the feedback from the committee on whether whether we feel that, because I know we've mentioned it before, but whether we might be able to develop a new proposed mission statement or charter statement, however you want to make it, that, in other words, updating it and making it more helpful. And at that time, we could suggest this redirection from being accountable to town meeting to, the select board at that time. So that was sort of my roundabout input. Sorry, I'm not very, whoops, sorry.
Yes, Rick. Oh, you're still on mute.
All right, there, I think I got it now. John, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure our mission is a bylaw, and it's not a mission statement. That's the select board can change the mission of any committee they appoint. That's within their purview. But I think you'll find our charter is a bylaw charter, and doesn't mean it can't be changed. And it also doesn't mean we're not responsive to input from other people. I would also just suggest in this conversation about sort of the breadth of our charge, I think it's quite broad, and I would encourage you all to take a 5-minute look at the report of the last government study committee's report that had all kinds of things people might call governance. They had lots of recommendations to the select board and said, you might want to try this and this and this. They also made a recommendation, for example, to change the mechanism by which our planning board is appointed or elected. So and that was pretty bold in those days. And it was not adopted. They recommended going to an appointed board. It was not well received, but I would say that helps you give the breadth of prior committee reports.
You're correct, Rick. The review of the charter is required by statute. What is it, 5 years or whatever it is?
Yeah, and we're the committee set up to do that, but it's not just the charter, as the language I consider broad enough to include any number of issues. For example, I'm not sure responding to a town meeting article about establishing a mechanism for people to have their complaints heard in a different way was necessarily limited to a charter issue. It could happen in all kinds of ways, and it approaches, I think, a governance issue on how the town itself chooses to deal with those problems. So,
Thank you. So we've gone slightly far afield on this.
Yes, we have.
Yes, we have. Hopefully not in a bad way, but we've gone far afield. Circling back, because I was hoping to try to keep the meeting at an hour, but that may, I've clearly failed at that. Thank you again, Hillary, for all of this. Does anybody have any other final questions for Hillary? Otherwise, I think we should at least start to move on and try to wrap up what we can.
I think it should go to the planning commission to have this discussion. I think this is inappropriate and I'll stay that way.
Okay. Yes, Rick?
I would think we would, at the very least, add it to our list of issues. So, and eventually, I think in one way or another, we should be, as a committee, deciding we don't want to deal with any one of those issues or want to deal with one or more of them as we go forward. And I think this topic should be added to that. And we as a committee will have to decide how to approach it further.
Has this gone to the planning committee? I mean,
No,
it would benefit our discussion, I think, to know the planning committee's thoughts.
Rick?
I think that I don't have any problem with that, Tucker. I would just point out that our discussions over many meetings about the Park and Rec Commission, the appointment process, what its powers are, have not been held with the Park and Rec Commission. Not that it wouldn't be helpful to do that, but we felt comfortable with those discussions on our own. Thank you.
because the Parks and Rec Commission is specifically called up by state law, and it's also specifically called out in our charter. And there have been issues with the charter language versus the fact that it was emasculated by taking its budget away. The Planning Commission is an entirely different issue in the charter as well as the state legislature.
All right, well, my suggestion, Campbell, I see your hand raised. What's up?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that maybe we put this topic on another, on a future agenda. I feel like we're getting really redundant on points and people are saying the same things again and again.
I think that's Curtis here too.
So I would like to make that proposal.
Okay, I think that's
Can I
reasonable.
just
Yes,
say,
Hillary.
sorry, just one thing in closing. First of all, thank you so much for hearing me out, for considering this. And I just want to say in closing, I think this is really urgent. I mean, we have so many crises on Nantucket. We have an affordable housing crisis, and Tucker, thank you for calling me out on not featuring that. You know, the Cape Cod Commission came up with a model bylaw to promote affordable housing in all of the towns, which towns could adopt. There are so many planning tools that we could be using as a town to encourage affordable housing or housing at all different, a diversity of housing even. There are so many tools that we could be using. They have to come from the Planning Commission. We have a 12-year-old master plan that is supposed to be updated at least every 10 years. If you want to update a master plan that expires in 2019, you need to start working on it at least in 2017. We have a crisis of citizens coming in with citizens warrants, of new commissions coming in, like the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee, not to take anything away from them, but that is something that normally would be, coordinated through a planning commission. We have no master plan anymore that is relevant. It's too old. We have an open space plan that isn't going anywhere. And we have a bifurcated government. And if you all think that this isn't important, I know nobody said this isn't important or doesn't matter, you've said the opposite, but please remember that org chart with the Planning Commission at the very top of the government on parity with the select board. And it is a self-appointing commission that has, is not under any oversight of the select board at all. So I just think this is really, really important. I do hope that that it can be addressed by this study committee. I'm here because I was directed to come to speak to you in my questions of who do I talk to about this. I've looked at this for 2 years and I've decided that this is something that if we talk about it and deal with it, it will make a big difference for Nantucket. It seemed like I was advised that this is the best place to start. I have talked with the chair of the planning board about this. I have notified the chair of the planning commission about this. I have talked to our town manager about this, and I've talked to 3 members of the select board about this. So this is where it's landed, and I hope very much that this committee could recommend some revision, some further study and possible revision to the special act. And I thank you very much for listening and for your time.
Great, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, the
Yes.
master plan is being looked at now, with each section being gone over by the appropriate people. And it is a planning board issue, not the planning commission at the moment.
Duly noted. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, committee members. We've got a handful of other things on our agenda, including the Affordable Housing Trust Fund as a town department, expanding the role in redefined town government study committee and the town governance committee, other business, and date time of our next meeting. I am trying to be cognizant of the time, seeing as it is 10:15. So my question is, do we want to try to tackle one of these topics or include these for our next meeting? I just want to be considerate of everyone's time. Campbell, you saw your hand up. Hold on, Linda, wait a second.
I don't know how to raise the hand.
Campbell, I saw your hand up first.
Yeah, I think that we are going to probably run out of time here. I think something we could maybe take up quickly to come up with a few questions would be the housing authority.
No, housing trust.
Housing Trust Fund.
Right, I'm sorry, I didn't have the agenda in front of me. Maybe take that one up and put the other one off, because I think with the discussions that we had earlier, we could maybe fill out the Andover discussion. At a time would be my thing.
I think for the Andover discussion, which is, by the way, the expanding the role in redefining town government, I think that is something where it may be worthwhile to have some due diligence to either chat with their town clerk or reach out to them just to see what they are doing or what they have done, and then come back to them for the next meeting with that. So I would be all in favor of that idea.
Right, and like I said, I did look at their website, and they are appointed. They started in September 2019. All members' terms expire in 2022. It's divided into 4 sections. So they're about a 20-month committee. So that's just that, but I thought that would have a fuller discussion. And I know with the Affordable Housing Trust, there are some questions that I have about it that I would like to ask that could maybe then be included again later.
Rick, I saw your hand up too.
Well, just one quick comment on the trust. It seems to me that the trust was set up for a number of reasons, and Tucker knows this a lot better than I do, but it has powers that a town department wouldn't ever have. And, Tucker's sort of like a town department anyway. So I think talking about moving that activity out of the Affordable Housing Trust structure probably doesn't make a lot of sense given its unique situation. And if that's the case, the sooner we dispose of that issue, the better.
I agree.
Yeah, please chime in. I feel you've got more to say than anybody on this.
Well, no, I agree with Rick. The trust is set up by special act with powers that a normal town department wouldn't have, most notably the ability to acquire land without having to go through all of the normal 30B procedures in certain cases. So I just, appreciate the thought, but I don't know that, I don't know actually that we can make the trust a town department. It's its own entity.
Okay,
On top of the fact, since I was the original person on it, helped write it.
Yep.
On top of the fact that when we're all trustees, when we all come onto the board, we have to fill out a trust form, which is filed at the Registry of Deeds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is built on other affordable housing trust funds in the state. They cannot become a town department.
interesting. Campbell,
So this is going to my main question, because quite frankly, this is not an area I have a lot of knowledge in, given that have tried to create my own affordable housing because I don't make a lot of money. So, you know, from that angle, I really haven't been too involved. But what I'm wondering is it set up like the water department and the airport, or are those, I mean, is it a third kind of thing like that, an independent entity that has its own financing, its own appointment procedures and meeting procedures and things like that? Power outside, is that what it is?
No, it is not an enterprise account. It is actually a trust account. The funding is coming from the CPC, from the town, from the state. It gets various places it comes from.
Right, but is it separated? Not that they're
Yes.
in funding mechanism, but is it a separate entity? Like I think
Yes.
of the Airport Commission as a separate thing from the planning board. Do you see what I
Yes,
mean?
it is a separate entity, but it is a trust fund as opposed to a town
Right.
department.
So the funding is different, but it is a
Yes.
separate piece.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess that would answer part of the originating question from Ms. Ferrantella regarding this was why are the members of it not elected, correct? Because the water and the airport, are those are elected?
The housing authority member is elected, the select board member is elected. There are various, it's set up by statute through the state.
Yeah.
We adjusted it some time ago. I did that to represent various factions of the public. So
Okay.
two of the members are elected, at least two of the members, I think 3 members are elected because one comes from the planning board, I believe, Tucker.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're kind of elected within other boards. Like, so other boards have the appointing authority, and they, you know, they conduct their own internal elections, so to speak. So there's not really like someone generally from the public could be appointed by the select board, but not presently elected.
Right, you have to be elected in order to be on it, sort of like the NP.
Well, I believe there are 3 at-large representatives. So those 3 folks are appointed by the select board through the normal appointment process, and any citizen is eligible to apply to be appointed through that process. Yeah.
Okay, I just know that the question when it had been brought to us was, I think someone had asked Ms. Ferrantella why it wasn't elected or something like that. But what we're saying is that actually through the election of these other people in these other departments, so maybe that's what's the missing link for people is.
I think that Linda did a very, I think Linda did a great job a few years ago with the reconfiguration of the makeup of the board, so that there is a housing authority rep, there's an NP and EDC rep, there's a select board rep. Those are all the elected, so to speak, representatives. But then, then even further, when the select board is appointing, they have to appoint someone from the real estate community, to the board. And then there are the general at-large positions. So I think it does have a good mix, which isn't to say that you couldn't consider having like truly elected seats on the annual election. But that would be a revision to the special act.
Right, so it sounds like this is like its originating document and it's broadly put together like this and maybe worth reviewing in 5 years or something to see how well it's going, right? That's pretty much with conclusion. Okay, great. I really appreciate all of your time with that issue. So I feel like we can at least make a statement about it and move on.
Works for me. All right, so moving on with that, unless anybody has any other comments on Affordable Housing Trust Fund, I think that we should punt on the expanding the role in redefining town government study in the town governance committee, because I think it's turning out to be one of the more important topics, albeit it's probably the most self-serving, that we're going to be dealing with in terms of sort of redefining or reclarifying our mission, et cetera. So I think we should be getting, I'll compile the information that I have from Andover, maybe try to use the old Google machine and see if there are other town government study committees that we can look at. I think Rick, years ago, we pointed the one in Chatham, and I think there was something scandalous about that. We try to revisit that.
That'll fit right in here.
Yeah. All right. So if that's cool with everyone, anybody have any other business? No, hearing none. Terrific. All right, date and time of the next meeting. How do you guys like the 9 a.m. hour?
I don't.
Okay.
I do.
Rick and
Tuesday,
Tucker?
It works, but I can do other times. So
Yeah, if I had a choice, I'd do 10, but that's just me.
Yep, no, and me.
All right, well, Campbell, we might be outvoted on this one. I think 10 works better for Curtis too, frankly.
I don't have to, I don't have
I hear you. I hear you. All right, so
spring, and my work schedule is to the wall. So the earlier in the day or the later, the better.
I get it. All right, so considering that our next topics, we're going to be talking about NPDC and we're going to be talking about government versus governance study. Do you want to try to do the end of next week or wait a full 2 weeks? I'm just cognizant of trying to get the agenda out.
Not happening next week. I can
Okay.
do it maybe the following week. There's no HDC meeting that week.
So we want to say, how about Tuesday the 13th at maybe 10 a.m.?
Okay.
All right. 4/13/21 at 10 a.m. Beautiful. Okay.
You ready for a motion for adjournment, John?
I think I sure am, Rick. You can do
I
it.
just made it.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
All right, Campbell said it. All right, let's do roll call. Campbell,
aye.
Tucker, Rick,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, thank you all very much. Much appreciated.
Stay safe, everyone.
Yeah, you too.